The walls of Downton have seen it all: births, weddings, heartbreaks, and secrets whispered in candlelit halls. But every story, no matter how grand, must reach its final chapter. The screen fades in with the first light of dawn. A golden sun slowly rises above the rolling green fields of Yorkshire, painting the estate in a warm glow. The camera glides over the rooftops of Downton Abbey, revealing its stone towers standing tall against the horizon. The grand house looks almost alive, its windows catching the morning light as though the building itself is waking from a long dream. A soft voice carries over these images, calm and reflective, speaking of time, of memory, of change. The voice tells us that Downton is not just a house, it is a living story carved in stone. Every corridor, every staircase has heard the footsteps of those who came before. We are reminded of the laughter of children once echoing in the nursery, of music drifting from the ballroom, and of quiet prayers whispered behind closed doors. The camera moves inside. We see a long hallway, empty yet full of presence. Sunlight pours through tall windows, painting the floor with golden patterns. The camera lingers on details. A polished silver teapot resting on a tray. A grand portrait of Lord Grantham's ancestors. A vase of fresh flowers carefully arranged by unseen hands. These images feel familiar and comforting, yet there is a subtle sadness hidden beneath their beauty, as though the abbey itself knows its time in the spotlight is ending. Music swells gently in the background, a soft piano joined by faint strings. It is not a triumphant tune, but one filled with longing. As the camera sweeps past the grand staircase, we catch a glimpse of the servants' quarters. The kitchen stands still, waiting for the clatter of pots and pans, the chatter of cooks and footmen. Upstairs, the grand dining hall remains untouched, the long table polished and ready, as if holding its breath for the family's return. The narrator's voice continues, hinting at what is to come. This house has been the heart of countless stories, the backdrop for love and loyalty, ambition and betrayal. But the narrator warns us, with a tone of gentle finality, that even the strongest traditions must bend to time. Even the grandest houses must one day face change. The scene closes with a slow pan outward from the abbey's front gates. The road beyond stretches into the distance, empty but inviting, as if beckoning new journeys while saying farewell to the old. A moment of silence lingers. The music fades, leaving only the sound of wind moving across the fields. Then, in bold letters, the words appear: "The final chapter begins." The screen fades from black to the sound of footsteps echoing through marble halls. The voiceover begins, steady and filled with warmth, reminding us that the heart of Downton Abbey has always been its people. Suddenly we see him, Lord Grantham, Hugh Bonneville, standing tall yet older, carrying the weight of years in his eyes. His gaze drifts across the drawing room, and for a moment it feels as though the entire history of the estate rests on his shoulders. He straightens, not with pride but with quiet resilience, a man prepared to protect the legacy of his family one last time. Cut to Lady Edith, Laura Carmichael, stepping gracefully across the terrace. Her eyes lift to the horizon, as if searching for something beyond the walls of Downton. There is a maturity in her now, a calmness that comes only after surviving storms of the past. But her presence carries a whisper of longing, a reminder that even amidst wealth and comfort, the human heart still yearns for meaning, for connection, for peace. The narrator's voice tells us that these faces return not only to their home, but to confront questions that have lingered for too long. The music shifts, more urgent now, with the pulse of strings. Quick flashes fill the screen. Mrs. Hughes in the kitchen, her hands folded as if in prayer, looking toward the stairs where so many lives have passed. Mr. Carson, the ever-faithful butler, his posture still proud though his hair is grayer, his eyes betraying both loyalty and unspoken concern. Thomas Barrow, the once tormented footman turned butler, standing in the hall with his reflection cast against a window, a man torn between duty and desire. These glimpses are fleeting, but they strike like memory itself. Familiar faces arriving in quick succession, each one carrying a story that audiences have carried in their hearts for years. The camera lingers on Lady Mary, her voice firm and commanding as she discusses the future of the estate. She is not only a daughter of Downton, but its unyielding guardian, a symbol of survival and change. Her eyes reveal the steel of a woman who has faced tragedy and loss. Yet her every step across those floors reminds us that Downton is still alive, still breathing through her strength. The narrator's voice grows more insistent. These are not mere characters. They are echoes of time, shadows of love, fragments of history walking once more through the halls of a house that has always been more than stone. The Abbey has called them back, one by one, not for comfort, but for reckoning. Every face tells us the same truth. Something is ending, and they have come together to witness it. The section closes on a single powerful image. The great doors of Downton Abbey opening slowly, sunlight spilling into the entrance hall as the family and staff gather in silence. For a moment they do not speak. They simply stand together, bound by duty, by love, by memory. The camera pulls back, capturing them in one sweeping shot. A portrait of the old world returning for one last bow. The music swells. The voiceover whispers, "At Downton Abbey, no one ever truly leaves." The silence of Downton does not last. The screen cuts to a sealed envelope resting on a polished desk. A hand reaches forward, trembling slightly, and breaks the wax seal. The paper unfolds with a soft tear. But the words inside carry the weight of thunder. The narrator's voice returns, low and deliberate, reminding us that every letter at Downton has carried news that changed lives forever. Some brought joy, some brought heartbreak. This one will bring both. The music sharpens, violins that begin soft then tighten like strings wound too far. Quick images flash. A candle flickering in a storm. Footsteps hurrying across the servants' corridor. The uneasy glance of a maid who has overheard something she cannot repeat. Shadows lengthen on the Abbey's walls as voices rise in heated whispers. We see Lord Grantham at the head of the dining table, his jaw set, eyes fixed on words that no one else dares to read aloud. Lady Mary sits across from him, her expression carved in stone, her silence louder than argument. A storm is building, not in the sky, but within the family itself. The camera shifts to the kitchen. Mrs. Patmore sets down a pot with a loud clang, her hands trembling though she tries to disguise it. Daisy, watching carefully, leans closer, whispering. But the words are drowned by the swell of music. Upstairs, the staff exchange hurried looks, their voices hushed yet urgent. Even Carson, the unshakable butler, stands at the doorway of the library, listening to raised voices within, his face betraying concern he would never admit aloud. The narrator warns us. Downton Abbey has always stood as a pillar of tradition, but traditions are fragile when confronted with the tide of change. We see a close-up of Lady Edith, her face caught between sorrow and determination, as if she knows that the decisions made in these rooms will shape not just the Abbey's fate, but her own. Then Thomas Barrow appears in shadow, eavesdropping at the edge of a corridor, his expression unreadable, his silence carrying more menace than words. Conflict spills beyond the family. A local town hall meeting erupts in argument, voices overlapping, hands slamming against tables. The old world collides with the new, and Downton is caught in the middle. Land, titles, wealth, love, all are in question. All are threatened. The screen cuts back to the Abbey, now shown beneath a brewing storm, rain slashing against its windows as though nature itself has joined the quarrel. The music swells to a near-breaking point as the narrator's voice deepens. The Abbey has survived wars, scandals, and secrets. But what comes now is more dangerous than all of them combined. It is not an enemy from beyond. It is the fear, ambition, and betrayal within its own walls. The final shot of this section shows Lady Mary standing in the Great Hall, her back to the camera, her voice cutting through the silence with a single line. "Downton will not fall, not while I breathe." The screen fades to black on her words, leaving only the echo of her defiance. The music softens to a single piano note, each key falling like a drop of rain on stone. The screen reveals Lady Edith walking slowly through the garden at dusk. The air is golden, fading toward twilight, and she runs her hand over the roses as though each petal carries the memory of moments she cannot let go. The narrator speaks gently now, almost as if whispering to the audience. Every heart that has walked these halls has loved, and every love has left its mark. The images unfold like memory itself. A ballroom filled with laughter and light, frozen in a flash, then gone. The faint sound of wedding bells lingers, fading into the quiet sob of a widow dressed in black. We see Mary seated at her writing desk, her hand trembling as she clutches an old photograph. In the flickering glow of the fireplace, her face is lit not by anger, but by loss too heavy to put into words. The camera shifts to the Abbey's cemetery, the headstones standing like sentinels against the wind. A hand places fresh flowers on one grave, then lingers there longer than expected. The music swells with strings, and the narrator's voice deepens, reminding us that Downton has not only celebrated life, but also borne witness to death. Each loss has carved itself into the soul of the house, making its beauty all the more fragile, its walls all the more sacred. But even as grief lingers, so too does hope. A baby's laugh echoes faintly, the sound drifting like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. We see Edith holding her child, smiling through her tears. We see Daisy teaching a younger maid how to prepare a dish, passing knowledge from one hand to the next. And in the drawing room, Lord Grantham gazes at his family, his lips curving into a rare smile, as though he finally understands that legacy is not built on wealth or land. It is built on love that survives beyond death. The camera lingers on the Abbey at twilight. The windows glow with light, each one a reminder that life continues within, even as the world outside shifts and crumbles. The narrator closes this section with a line that falls heavy on the heart. What we love becomes our legacy. What we lose becomes our strength. The screen fades to black, and the sound of a single violin carries us into silence, lingering like memory itself. The stillness shatters. The music erupts with drums, deep and relentless, like a heartbeat racing towards something unstoppable. The camera shows storm clouds rolling across the Yorkshire sky, lightning slicing through the horizon. Downton Abbey rises beneath the storm like a fortress, its windows glowing against the darkness. The narrator's voice returns, stronger now, carrying a warning. When time demands a reckoning, no house stands untouched. Quick cuts follow, sharp and breathless. Horses gallop across the estate grounds, their hooves pounding the earth as though carrying a message too urgent to ignore. Servants run through corridors, voices overlapping in panic, letters clutched in their hands. Lady Mary stands in the great hall, her voice raised in defiance, but her words are drowned out by the surge of strings in the soundtrack. Every image comes and goes like a flash of lightning, leaving only fragments. Shouts, footsteps, shadows, faces burning with fear and determination. We see Lord Grantham at the head of the table slamming his hand down with force. Sparks fly from a blacksmith's hammer in the village, echoing his fury. Edith's tears streak her face as she turns away from someone unseen, her silence more powerful than argument. Thomas walks alone through the corridor at night, his face half lit, his hand brushing the walls as if searching for strength. The storm grows louder. The narrator's tone sharpens. Every choice will carry its price. Every secret will demand its truth. And every bond will be tested. Images flash. Carson raising his voice for the first time. The dowager's chair standing empty in a quiet parlor. A letter falling to the floor as firelight consumes its edges. These fragments feel like prophecy, as though the house itself is preparing for collapse. The pace quickens. A carriage races down the drive, wheels cutting through mud. Guards open the Abbey's gates with force, light pouring into the courtyard. The staff gather on the staircase, faces tense, waiting for news that could alter everything. Above them, the family stands together, the weight of centuries pressing down upon their shoulders. Then the music surges to its highest point, violins screaming, drums crashing, while the screen floods with images in rapid fire. A chandelier shaking as thunder roars, a child crying in a nursery, Mary clutching Edith's hand in a rare moment of unity, and the Abbey itself framed against a sky of fire and rain. The section ends in sudden silence. The camera zooms in on Lady Mary's face, her lips whispering words barely audible. "This is our last stand." The screen cuts to black, and the audience is left suspended in the dark, the echo of her vow still ringing like thunder. The storm is gone. In its place, silence. The music returns as a single, fragile note of piano, each keystroke echoing like a heartbeat in an empty room. The screen fades into a wide shot of Downton Abbey at dusk, its silhouette cut against a fading sky of violet and gold. The narrator's voice, softer now, speaks with the tone of someone saying goodbye. Every home holds its stories, but even the grandest house must one day fall silent. The camera drifts through empty halls. The dining room, once filled with laughter and arguments, stands still, its candles burned down to the wick. The library's armchairs are vacant, the fire no longer lit. The kitchen is spotless, polished to perfection, yet without the clatter of pots or the chatter of servants. It feels like a memory left behind. These rooms, once so alive, now feel like chapters closing, their echoes fading into quiet eternity. Then, one by one, the faces return to the screen. Lord Grantham, seated at the head of the table for what feels like the last time, his expression heavy with reflection rather than command. Edith, standing in the garden as twilight settles, her face calm but her eyes glistening as though she knows this moment will never come again. Mary, walking through the grand hall, her hand sliding across the banister of the staircase, holding on to the house as though she could anchor it against time. The music swells softly with strings, not triumphant but tender, carrying the weight of memory. The narrator continues, "What we have built here will not vanish. What we have shared will not be forgotten. Downton lives on in every heart that carries its story." A final montage plays like a dream. Carson and Mrs. Hughes walking side by side, their hands brushing just enough to show love's quiet endurance. Thomas pausing at a window, his reflection merging with the Abbey's stone, as though he has finally found belonging. Daisy laughing softly as she teaches a child in the kitchen, the promise of a new generation. And at the center, the family gathered for a final photograph, their eyes turned not to the camera, but to each other. The screen fades once more to the Abbey's exterior. The sun sets fully now, the house a silhouette against the darkening sky. The narrator delivers one last line, hushed, final, unforgettable. "Downton Abbey will live forever." The music fades into silence. The screen goes black. Slowly, in golden letters, the title appears. Downton Abbey, the grand finale. The screen remains black for a long moment, holding the audience in silence. Then a single sound, the faint creak of a door opening. Slowly the image fades in. Downton Abbey's great doors swinging wide, sunlight pouring into the entrance hall. Dust floats in the golden light, drifting like spirits of the past, as though the house itself is taking one last breath. The music returns, but now it is only a single violin, drawn out, fragile, almost breaking. A figure steps into the doorway, just a silhouette, unrecognizable but familiar in posture. The camera never reveals the face, only the outline standing in that light, bridging past and future. The narrator's voice, lower than ever, whispers with finality, "Every story ends, but some echoes never fade." The images strike like lightning, rapid and haunting. The family photo being tucked into a drawer, a candle being snuffed out, its smoke curling upward, a child's laughter ringing in the distance, cut abruptly into silence. The Abbey at night, its windows glowing faintly as though lit from within by the ghosts of memory. The screen flashes to the estate one last time, but now from far above, pulling back higher and higher until the Abbey becomes a small figure in the vast green of the countryside. As the camera continues to rise, the music swells suddenly, one last burst of strings and drums that crashes like a wave. Just as the sound peaks, it cuts to silence. On a black screen, the words appear in bold, golden letters, Downton Abbey. The grand finale beneath it, smaller text fades in, The end of an era, the story of a lifetime. And then, as the screen fades completely, the final voiceover delivers a single whispered promise. Downton. Forever. The music ends on a single sustained note echoing into silence.